So, Game of Thrones, Season 6, Episode 6, Blood of My Blood, aired last night, and we're past the halfway point, people, so let's recap that. We open with Meera and Bran, who I hope are as emotionally traumatised as the audience are still after last week's episode. Meera is dragging Bran's cart through the snow as Bran is still wogged. He has some flashes in his mind of footage from previous seasons, and thrown in there, the Mad King is shouting, "Burn them all," and Jaime killing him. I think this is meant to imply that Bran is learning that all of this is happening, and he's basically sort of seeing flashbacks of all the other storylines that have been going on while he's been in the north. Meera trips in the snow but gets up, continuing to drag him until she struggles to get him over some felled trees and breaks down crying, willing Bran to wake up as she covers his body for protection. Bran wakes up finally, telling her that the army of the dead have found them. Suddenly, a man on a horse arrives with a flaming, swinging, bally, macy thing and a huge scythe and starts taking out the skellies. He tells Meera and Bran to come with him, and he lifts them both onto his horse and rides off to safety. Meanwhile, Sam and Gilly are in a carriage headed to his house. Gilly, have I mentioned how adorable she is fascinated by everything being so green. Sam talks about the trees as he holds little Sam, who looks very, very much like the baby that got turned into a White Walker a couple of seasons ago. I don't know if it's the same baby actor or not, but it looks very similar. He and Gilly discuss his family. They arrive at his family castle and his mother comes to meet them and hugs him, as well as his sister. He introduces Gilly and they greet her warmly too and fuss over little Sam. His father and brother are on a hunt, but they've brought into the family home, and Sam's sister treats Gilly kindly, welcoming her new sister and offering her a choice of her dresses. We then go to the Great Sept, where Tommen is lighting a candle, where the High Sparrow, oh God, it's so dull. They're talking about Marjorie's walk of shame, and he lets Tommen go and see Marjorie. They share a hug, and Tommen expresses how much he's missed his wife. Marjorie seems to have drank the crazy Kool-Aid, however. Back with Sam, Gilly has finally been given a new outfit, and she looks like she's going to explode from being adorable. He escorts her to dinner, where his father gives disapproving looks, and Gilly wonders how to use a knife and fork. They share some awkward conversation about hunting. Sam's father is generally an unpleasant man to Sam. Gilly defends Sam, but ends up letting slip that she's a wildling. Sam's father is even more unpleasant after this, but Sam's mother removes Gilly and is very protective over her. Sam's father banishes his son from returning to Hornhill in the future, but does concede to allow Gilly and little Sam to stay. Back in Gilly's room, Sam and Gilly share a tender goodbye kiss as he departs. She sadly looks over little Sam, and then Sam comes back into the room and picks up little Sam and tells Gilly that they're going, and they belong together, and he's taking the family sword with him. Go, Sam. Gilly grew some balls and then slapped them on him. In Braavos, the play is back on, and they've reached the Purple Wedding as Joffrey dies. Arya laughs, and Play Cersei mourns over dead Play Joffrey. Arya notices the Sansa actor in the background talking along with the Cersei actor's lines. Arya slips into the back as Richard E. Grant dies on the toilet as Tywin. Arya puts poison into the lady's bottle of rum, so she goes to slip out, but the fake Cersei stops her, confronting her about being in the audience and not paying to see the play. Did you pay to see the show? Lol, nope. Does HBO know their audience or what? They talk, and Arya expresses her admiration for the actress and advises her on making some changes to be more like actual Cersei. Arya leaves, and the players discuss the audience backstage. The actress goes to drink the poisoned rum, but Arya appears, knocks the glass from her hand, and warns her about the Sansa actress. Oh Lord, Arya, you gone and done it again. You are the worst assassin ever. The obnoxious girl there, however, is there to spy on Arya, and it seems like Arya's made her choice. She goes and retrieves Needle from the place she hid it last season and hides in a little alleyway blowing out a candle so it's all dark. The obnoxious girl goes to Jaqen, who is cutting off faces from bodies. Very nice. And the obnoxious girl seems to want to kill Arya, and Jaqen tells her not to let her suffer. There's a lot of subtext in these scenes where they're not specifically giving full instructions, so it's sort of hard to say what's really going on sometimes. Back in King's Landing, the Tyrell army watches towards the High Sept with Jaime. Mace Tyrell looks like a proud peacock on his horsey. Marjorie stands on the steps ready for her walk. A huge crowd is already there, but the army arrives, splitting the crowd apart. They've come for Marjorie, and they have Lady Olenna with them too, who I would not want to mess with. Jaime demands Marjorie and Loras. The High Sparrow doesn't seem to want to give them up, though. Jaime threatens them. The High Sparrow seems to give in and say there'll be no walk of shame, as Marjorie has already paid for her sins by bringing another into the true light of the Seven. Cue Tommen walking out of the Sept with a new Kingsguard, all dressed in the Light of the Seven uniform, and the Sparrow looking unbearably smug. Tommen, you are so going to die this season, you weak little shish kebab. In the throne room, Tommen takes away Jaime's status as the Lord Commander of the Kingsguard and tells him that he's going to serve the realms somewhere else. Definitely not in King's Landing, though. Seems Tommen has drunk the crazy Kool-Aid as well. Q2, Walder Frey. Now there is a villain who is foul and likeable. Unlike smuggy Mr. Smugface, Frey is chewing the hell out of his kids for losing Riverrun to the Blackfish. He tells them to retake it, but the houses of the Riverlands are rebelling against them, as well as the Brotherhood, first mention of them in a while. Frey tells them to bring the knives from the Red Wedding to show the Blackfish, and to take Edmure Tully with him. Jaime is apparently also going with him, as so ordered by Tommen, but Jaime isn't wanting to take that. He wants to pay Bronn to kill the High Sparrow. Cersei, acting like the sensible one for a change, tells him to go lead the army and retake Riverrun to stay alive, as killing the High Sparrow would be a suicide mission. North of the Wall, the mysterious cloaked man who saved Bran and Meera earlier is skinning a rabbit for them to eat. The Three-Eyed Raven sent him to help, and he reveals himself to be Benjen Stark. Benjen Stark. Benjen Stark! Benjen tells them that the White Walkers stabbed him and left him to turn, but the Children of the Forest saved him by plunging a shard of dragonglass into his heart and not letting the magic take hold. Benjen tells Bran that one day the Night King will come to the world of men, and then Bran will be ready to fight him. Meanwhile, Dany and Daario ride along with the Khalasar. She pauses the horde, riding ahead without them in a canyon, leading them to get all antsy because the Khalasar don't like just being told to wait there and do nothing. Daario is about to disobey orders and go looking for her when Dany reappears, riding over the horde on the back of an absolutely gigantic Drogon. I'm assuming this is why we've lost 2 direwolves this season, for the CGI budget. Also, Dany's horse probably got eaten. She tells the Khalasar that she chooses them all to be her blood riders, and they'll all ride across the sea and take Westeros and the Iron Throne, and they're all pretty happy about that. Damn, after last week's truly epic episode, it seems like we've slid back a little. Highlights, obviously, the return of Benjen Stark. I mean, we went from having 4 Starks to 6 Starks, which means that Brickon's probably going to die this season as well. Everything else was not as interesting as last week. I think since the season has been a season of returns, I expect we'll be seeing the return of Gendry before the end, hopefully finally arriving in Fleabottom. It seems all too often that episodes in Game of Thrones end with Dany declaring that she's going to take power, so it's all getting a little bit dull now. In fact, I've been wondering what a supercut of each character's story arc would look like if we chopped up the show here and there, only watching Dany's parts or Jon parts in one continuous run without the other bits surrounding it. Which story would hold the most interest then? Another filler episode in what so far seems to be like a season of filler episodes. I wonder when season 6 is actually going to show its force. Will it stop people from watching? Of course not. It's still one of the best shows on TV. The problem is that Game of Thrones has grown so epic that anything that's not epic feels like a letdown. Saying that, nobody died this week. The streak is broken just this once. Everybody lived in Game of Thrones. I actually don't know how long it's been since there's been an episode where everyone lived in Game of Thrones. Well, that's everything for this week's episode of Airtime of the Geek. You can send comments, queries, suggestions if you follow me on Twitter to @AirtimeGeek. Instagram is @Airtime of the Geek. You can email me, it's paulab@ignitionradio.co.uk. You can also take a look at geeky art I upload to DeviantArt. The username there is AirtimeGeek. Facebook page is facebook.com/airtimeofgeek. You can call the studio. It's 01642 645 827. That's everything for me on this Bank Holiday Monday, and I will see you all next week for more Game of Thrones recaps, for news, reviews and top 10s.